Greetings! BlazeLeeDragon here, and I have a video response for you. This video response is to a dear friend of mine, SilverPheonixBlossom. Yes, I looked up your name, Silver, because I just call you Silver. And I just want to make sure I was pronouncing it right and in the right order. So anyway, she writes this message to me, so I'm going to read your whole message. No, I'm teasing. Anyway, for those of you who have no idea what I'm talking about, it was kind of funny, the message, and I'm sure she wouldn't want me to read the whole thing. I will get to the point, though, about the request a video made in my name. Mwahahahaha. That's right. So she wants me to do a video specifically for her, for SilverPheonixBlossom. So SilverPheonixBlossom from BlazeLeeDragon, here's your video. Video response. Your video requested. So, I'm going to read that part of what you're requesting. I would really appreciate it if you could make a video explaining the Tuatha origins and role in Celtic mythology, and how the hell you pronounce the damn thing. Thank you. So, let's talk, Silver. Let's talk, everybody. First of all, the Tuatha, and I'm sure there's going to be arguments, because let's face it, none of us speak Gaelish, Welsh, well, maybe some people know how to pronounce it properly, but to my understanding, it's pronounced Tuatha. So what does Tuatha mean? It means the people or the children of the goddess Danu. Danu is supposed to be the Great Mother. So it's a very generic term for the universal essence of goddess. So the children of the great goddess, basically, the Great Mother. As far as Celtic mythology, I don't want to call it mythology just because of the simple fact that it's... How do I explain it? It's kind of like telling Christians that their Bible's mythology. Is there any proof or evidence that anything in the Bible is real? No. But to call it mythology is still offensive. Don't like Greek mythology, Roman mythology. I don't like to call it mythology. Ultimately, yes. Is it considered mythology? Sure. Just like Christian mythology, Jewish mythology, Hinduism mythology, or Hindu mythology, not Hinduism mythology. That would probably be a better way to say it. My point is, I wouldn't necessarily call it mythology, but let's talk about how it exists and fits in the whole Celtic mindset. Now, as you very well should know, and everyone should know, the gods themselves and the understanding of what gods and deities are, they're usually talked about as if they were living human beings on this planet. Hinduism, Norse traditions, and Druid traditions all fall very strongly into this categorization. So if you take the Nordic gods, Odin, they talk about Odin and Gungnir, his great spear, and they talk about, his sons and children like Thor with Mjolnir. And they talk about the adventures and the deeds and about how, Odin lost his eye. And that's why he's usually depicted with an eye patch. And how he hung himself from a tree to get the Futhark runes and write them onto the tree and teach them to the peoples. So they talk about, these legends and myths and how they existed. And even in Hinduism, they talk about the gods as coming down here and walking among us, like... Kalari, which is like the Indian martial arts, was taught by one of the gods who actually came down. I don't remember if it was Shiva or Vishnu. And they talk about their existence living here on this plane. Same thing in Egypt. They talk about the gods like walking among the peoples. And the same thing is with Celtic society and the Druids. They talk about the Tuatha, which are the gods that we know, such as Brigid and Cernunnos, and many other of the Celtic gods and goddesses. Brigid and Cernunnos, of course, being very close to my heart, of the 9 that I closely follow the teachings of. And the Tuatha was basically their tribe. Now, where they came from, this is kind of, it's kind of up in the air. There are theories. There's many theories, and I'm not going to go into them just because there's so many of them. And my understanding and knowledge of the Tuatha is very limited, just for the simple fact there's not a lot written on it. Or at least not a lot written around here. Can't even find very much on it online. But I will share at least a little bit about what I have read and believe, etc. So, when they talk about the Tuatha, I can't remember who their king was, but apparently their queen was Brigid, the goddess Brigid, the same, mother of, fire, inspiration, healing, the waters, So, the forge, Brigid, the fire goddess, is considered the queen of Tuatha. And the king was one of the gods too, and I can't remember which one. And each one of the other ones, even Cernunnos, the great lord of the hunt in the woods, was one of the Tuatha. And it is believed that the children of the Tuatha De Danann became the Celtic tribes, and eventually, that's where we get the whole Druids, the original Druids. I mean, today we don't have Druids. We have Neo-Druids. We have a Druid revival. But the original Druids were apparently children of Tuatha De Danann. So, of course, one possible theory was that they came from Atlantis before it sunk. They came from, the heavens. They came from wherever the case may be. They came from somewhere. And this was their tribe, and they taught the Celtic people Celtic knotwork and their metalworking and their religion and their spirituality and all that. So that was the one theory. The Tuatha De Danann, the other theory is, of course, that they were just humans who revered the gods such as Brigid and Cernunnos and the other Celtic gods and goddesses, and that they were influenced by them, but they were still separate from them and taught some of their skills from the gods. So there's different origins on where the Tuatha De Danann came from and how they fit in. But that's the general idea, is that they're kind of sort of a creation story, so to speak. And it's how we got to know, understand, and work with the gods and some of the crafts that we know in Celtic society. So that is my very limited knowledge of the Tuatha De Danann. So whenever they're talking about the Tuatha, they have tons and tons of stories. You want to, look up some of the Celtic stories that the bards, the druids, the bardic grade, they would tell these stories about the Tuatha De Danann, such as Taliesin, all the stories of Taliesin, and how, he interacted, and, there was the cauldron of wisdom, and how he was supposed to stir it for so many days, and Sorelwyn, I'm pronouncing her name wrong, the goddess Sorelwyn, wanted him to stir this, and he was just an apprentice, and he dipped his finger in it accidentally when he was stirring, and it burned his finger, and he cooled it in his mouth, so he got the wisdom of all the years, and so he had magic, and, there's this huge story about Sorelwyn being furious, trying to chase him, and, he changes into one animal, she changes into another, and there's all these stories. All those are about the Tuatha De Danann. Some people will argue that point. You're more than welcome to argue that point, but that is one theory. So look up some of the old stories. They talk about all of these old legends and all of the Celtic tools, whether it be the rod or the druid egg or the staff, the wand, the chalice, all the different instruments used in druidry came from the Tuatha De Danann. I believe that there was, I want to say there was 4 gifts that they originally brought over, and they gave to the people, and I think it was like the cauldron, the sword, the staff, and the mirror? I can't remember anymore. I'd have to look it up. So I actually didn't research before doing this video. I've had very little free time. So there is 7 to 8 minutes, going on 8 minutes, of a basic introduction for you, Silver, of the Tuatha De Danann. Definitely encourage doing some more reading. There's some great reading materials out there. Obod is a great resource. And there is a book called The Book of Druidry by Ross Nichols. That's an excellent book to read. I even like 21 Lessons of Merlin. I think that's by Monroe. I'd have to find it, but I'm not standing up right now, so I'm kind of glancing at my library over here to the right. My library of only 60 books, but whatever. It's library to me. So, anyway, there you have it. BlazeLeeDragon, special message for Silver. If people have some comments, especially if you're a scholar and you've been studying Celtic society, hey, post a video response. Share some more knowledge and wisdom. You've got a great book out there on the Tuatha, or even, on the Celtic society, or, the Druids or anything. Share your thoughts. Post a video response. Make a message in the comments. Love to hear from you. So, enjoy. Blessings.